Welcome back to the Business Mastery in Functional Medicine series, where we explore innovations, the strategies, and the real world solutions shaping the future of root cause medicine. I'm your host, Amanda, and today we're diving into one of the most powerful tools for patient education, clinic growth, and industry leadership: podcasting. Joining me today is someone who has transformed the way patients consume functional and integrative medicine content. Brett Gregory, the founder and CEO of Doctor Talks. Brett has built one of the most trusted platforms in health education, partnering with the top voices in longevity, hormones, and chronic illness to reach millions of listeners around the world. Today, we're talking about the evolution of the podcast industry, why health and wellness is one of the fastest growing categories, and how functional medicine providers can leverage content to scale trust, reach, and impact. If you've ever wondered how to build an audience, how to stand out, or how to turn education into a growth engine for your clinic or brand, this episode is for you. Let's dive in.
Welcome to Business Mastery in Functional Medicine, the podcast where we pull back the curtain on what it really takes to build, scale, and optimize a thriving integrative and functional medicine practice. In this series, we're partnering with Power to Practice, the EMR built specifically for functional medicine, to bring you real conversations with industry leaders, innovators, and clinic owners who are shaping the future of this field. Whether you're a provider, clinic owner, entrepreneur, or someone looking to elevate your business systems, this show is designed to give you the strategies, tools, and insights that actually move the needle.
Brett, thank you so much for joining us today. I can't wait to dive into our topic. But for those of our listeners who don't know who you are, tell us how you got here today.
Yeah, thanks so much, Amanda. I'm super happy to be here. My name is Brett Gregory. I'm the founder of Doctor Talks, and I've been helping doctors with their marketing and growing their practices for over 15 years now. And the way that I got here was kind of a circuitous route, actually. From 1996 to 2006, I had an employee benefits business where we sold corporate wellness programs to companies in San Diego. And I started a talk radio show there, or I should say, I joined a startup talk radio show there. And for about 4 years, hosted a talk radio show where we would interview CEOs of companies in San Diego. And it turned out that that was just some of the best marketing ever, and we kind of stumbled across it. Most people who have a radio show or even a podcast are marketing to the listeners. In our case, we were interested in developing the relationships with the people that we were interviewing, our guests, and that ended up growing an incredible business, employee benefits business. And I did that for 10 years, from 96 to 2006. Sadly, in 2006, my 33-year-old brother, Eric, was diagnosed with terminal lung cancer, and he was given 9 months to live. And sadly, he passed away 9 months later, peacefully in our father's arms. And that changed the trajectory of my entire life. I had to do a lot of introspection, and I said, oh, what am I doing in this soul-sucking career? I tore off my suit and tie. I sold my employee benefits company for a couple $1,000,000, moved to Costa Rica, and I purchased a 164-acre property near the beach across the street from where they were building a hospital. And the goal was to build this eco-friendly wellness community, a place where people could change their lifestyle habits and heal from within to the best of their body's abilities. And it was a great way to, honor my brother's legacy. I sold my business just at the right time in 2006, but I purchased this property right before the global financial crisis in 2008. That was a very scary time. I bought this $3 million property for $2 million down. I was living in Costa Rica, and global financial crisis hit. And I had exactly 12 months to come up with $1 million, or I was going to lose the property and go bankrupt. And so in 2008, 2009 timeframe, nobody was coming to the rescue. There were no banks, there were no lenders, no angel investors. The whole market had gone south. And one thing I noticed was that Facebook hit 200 million users. And I said to myself, there's got to be some customers on Facebook. So I had this 165-acre property, took 25 acres. I subdivided 7 lots, and I said, okay, I need to find 7 buyers to give us, buy properties for over $1 million so that we don't go bankrupt. And I very quickly I learned how to do online marketing. I took a bunch of online marketing courses. I learned how to build websites. I learned about lead magnets. I learned about driving traffic, and inadvertently I learned how to go viral on social media because I had one Facebook page called Costa Rica that hit 500,000 likes at the time. Yeah, likes. And then I had another page called Costa Rica, and that one hit 1.3 million. And so I bought the domain CostaRicaWellness.com. I created a lead magnet. We would drive traffic from Facebook to the website, get people to fill out their form, their name, email information, and phone number. And I called all of them. There was about 2,500 people that filled out the form. I called every single one of them. I got 20 people to book a flight from Europe, Canada, and the United States. And we ended up doing 7 sales, almost all to doctors that we met on Facebook, who invested a piece of property in our wellness community. And we did about 1.4 million in sales in just under 12 months. We saved the property, saved the business,
Wow.
still own the land to this day. We didn't quite raise the 30 million that we needed to build the actual community. I had to put the project on pause. So in 2010, moved back to San Diego. And then that's when people started calling me from all over saying, "Hey, how did you make $1 million to customers you met on Facebook? Can you help me?" And the main kind of customers that we attracted tended to be doctors. And so I started a online marketing agency that quickly morphed into, full purpose marketing agency for doctors. And I did that from 2010 to 2020. And during that 10-year span, we helped doctors produce, large virtual summits, podcasts. We did Facebook marketing, all types of marketing. We did over $23 million in sales for those doctors to patients and customers they met online. And that entire time, I noticed the two types of marketing that were by far the best long term ROI for doctors. And one was producing large virtual summits, and the other one was producing podcasts. And so the challenge was that the summits were hard and took a long time, and they were expensive and financially risky. The podcasts were much easier, but they took a long time. And
Hmm.
it wasn't so financially risky. But what I noticed are the doctors that did it consistently for 1 to 2 years, most of them were profitable with their podcasts, 2 years. And so that entire time I said, geez, why hasn't anybody created, let's call it YouTube for doctors, where all the content creators were doctors? And after asking myself that for years, I finally said, well, I guess I'll start it.
Let's do it.
In March of 2020, Doctor Talks was born, and it happened to coincide exactly with the beginning of the pandemic. And of course, with the start of our Doctor Talks business and the pandemic, we didn't know what was going to happen. Nobody did, but it turned out we were one of those fortunate businesses that
Yeah.
the pandemic was a big tailwind. And now we're the world's largest streaming platform for functional medicine doctors. Now in 2025, we'll be turning 6 years old in a few months, and happy to help as many doctors as we possibly can.
That's incredible. And so Dr. Talks is right now the doctors, providers, integrated functional medicine YouTube out there. I know we've got some of our
Yeah.
providers who have
Yeah.
participated in your summits before. You're really making this very achievable for any provider, honestly, to get on this platform and participate in summits. I know, we've
That's the
had a few
goal.
of our providers, but it's really accessible. You don't have to, you're really making a community where you don't have to do this on your own either.
I call it
Doing it on your own is the hard part.
Yes, well, so we have a mission. Our mission is to help 1 billion people suffering from chronic illness and disease get the information they need directly from the source. But the flip side to that same coin is we're democratizing the creator economy for doctors. So, my dad's a doctor. I love doctors, and I've seen doctors just get unfairly squeezed from the insurance industry, from the medical industry, healthcare industry. And I want to help doctors make money from your knowledge and information. And we've created the platform Doctor Talk so you can do just that. You can grow, become a bigger influencer than you already are on the Doctor Talks platform, whether you're a guest or a host, and grow your audience and ultimately, monetize your information. That's what we're trying to
Yeah.
do.
We ran into you. I had the opportunity to meet you, I don't know, about 6, 7 months ago. We had partnered with you in the past, and we've had some of our providers, Dr. Peterson, Dr. Tara Scott, on some of your, different summits that you have that are consumer-facing, patient-facing summits that are getting this information. Dr. Peterson talked on SOT and Lyme disease, Dr. Scott talking about HRT and menopause and things like that, and then when I ran into you, I just kind of thought, "Oh, summits, that's all you do." And when we got to talking, we started talking more about podcasts, and now you're actually a partner of Forum Health, and you're helping us get started again with our podcast, and it has been such an incredible experience. But while we were evaluating, do we put our time and energy, because there's so much going on right now. Marketing, media, the functional and integrative medicine space, it's all changing so quickly. So when I was doing my research into where's the best time and energy spent right now. And I looked at podcasts and I was blown away by some of the opportunities that this industry is growing into. 76% of listeners have taken action from a podcast ad, and 38% have purchased a product after hearing about it in or on a
Yeah,
podcast.
that's right.
And I think that we get swept away by these 15-second, 30-second, 60-second videos, even the 2 or 3 minute formats right now. That's really what I see a lot of people putting content out there for.
Hmm. Yeah,
However, when you look at the consumers in the functional and the integrative space, they're taking time to learn about clinics, to learn about who they're going to be investing their dollars and cents into, and
hmm.
they're not making that decision on a 60-second video
No
or a
way.
30-second video. They're making it on longer format
Right.
videos. And the podcast industry and this long format video has really becoming a driver for this industry, for consumer decision making.
Very much so.
There's just so much opportunity for providers and clinics out there
Hmm.
to grow their trust in their communities, to build rapport with patients. I know that there's also just a lot of creative ways that we're reusing some of the content that we're putting out there also. It's turning into patient education so that they are leaving with more information.
Absolutely.
It's an incredible industry right now, and I'm so happy that we ran into you.
I think it's been a real honor to work with you. Yeah, I mean, you're so right that people don't make the buying decisions from the TikTok clip or the YouTube or Instagram little clips. That's how they may discover you. Initially they may work their way to your
Get
website,
to your
but when
podcast too.
get to your podcast, but for sure that's how you can get discovered. But you're right, buying decisions, whether it's a patient considering, some kind of procedure, or whether they're, going for a longevity, or, they want to hire the doctor as their coach, listen to a long form podcast of the doctor. And that's where you can really become that key opinion leader. You become that authority figure, that influencer, and allows you to also engage in conversations with other influential physicians. One thing that's interesting about podcast is that the trust that the host has with the listeners gets transferred to the guest. And people don't think about that, but the host will typically have a loyal following. And if they're interviewing the doctor as their guest, much of that trust will get automatically transferred because, essentially the doctor's been pre-vetted by being a guest on the podcast. And that goes a long way towards patient acquisition and converting new clients and customers.
Absolutely. And I mean, there's 84 million Americans who listen to podcasts weekly. And
Yeah,
that's only growing. It's
it's
the
growing.
the podcast industry is one of the fastest growing industries in the marketing space right now. We have 42% of Americans listening today, and that's up from 38% 2 years ago. And it's only growing. 130 million plus listen monthly. So even if you're not getting them weekly, you almost double that listen at least once a month. And
Yeah,
the average listener consumes 7 hours of podcasts per week.
yeah. I
That
mean,
is so much information that they're
yeah,
getting.
yeah. I'm constantly listening to podcasts, and most of the people I know are as well, and that's where we get a lot of our information, more so than just entertainment. Sometimes information can be entertaining, but a lot of times it's incredibly useful, and it really guides the consumer behavior.
And there's tons of podcasts. There's so many different industries. I mean, there's the mindset ones. We're deep in the health and wellness, but there's everything out there. But the health and wellness category is actually number 2 on Spotify. And so
Hmm.
it's not just like this, it's the industry, the podcast industry itself is growing, but our industry within the podcast industry is also has like fire on it right now. It is exploding.
Yeah, not only is it, one of the main mega niches, but it's also the fastest growing niche, and it's a great way to acquire new patients, clients, and customers.
Absolutely. So I am curious from your vantage point, what makes the functional medicine audience different from other podcast audiences?
Yeah, I find that the functional medicine audience tends to be highly educated consumers. And we discovered this when we were, years ago, as we were doing our online marketing, our marketing research, the consumers were much more educated than the average consumer, which led them to be better patients. They, would have better outcomes because they would do what the doctor told them to do many times, and they were also much more likely to be cash pay patients. They're very interested in, longevity and prevention, a lot of the things that our doctors have been preaching forever. And it feels like we're finally getting through on to some of these patients who, have been really craving this great new functional medicine kind of information, like how do we take care of our bodies so that we can live, have this healthy health span, our long health span. And there's so many interesting topics that are coming out in functional medicine and in these podcasts.
Yeah, I agree that the people who the our audience who's listening, they're not just listening to our podcast, they're listening to all like it's 7 hours a week they're ingesting on average. So they're getting the Peter Attias, they're getting the Forum Health, they're getting a variety of information because they're consistent with their listening too. They like to listen and follow the people that they're following.
Yes.
They are coming in more educated, and they are also willing to invest because that's part of the message that they're listening to also. We're leading the way for patients to understand the value in investing in your health and the difference between going in for your annual once a year versus balancing your hormones. They're starting to learn from the podcast industry, the messages that we're sending, other clinics are sending out there, that you can't normally just go to your PCP and be like, "Hey, I'm feeling a little fatigued and sluggish right now, but your labs look fine." Or,
Your labs look
you know,
fine.
we've got another podcast coming out in a week or so about the black box warning that just got pulled for HRT medications, right? Like that is giant for our industry. And
Wow.
where are patients learning about it? Where are they
Yeah,
learning about the value of that? They're learning it from the podcast. They might get a clip of it for 30 seconds, but they're going to want to tune in and understand how that affects them. And it
absolutely.
is so powerful having patients come in to your clinic with this information already at their fingertips, or being able to send them home with, "Hey, I want you to listen to this podcast when you get home. I talk about some really valuable stuff in here that's going to really make your day."
Yeah. Yeah, I love it. I mean, I'm so excited about this trend, and it's really a massive wave that so many of our doctors are able to catch and ride, and it's seems to be really blowing up a lot of different practices in a great way. And so we're just trying to help our doctors amplify your voice and get out there in front of the right audience and the right people.
And there's a lot of ways to leverage a podcast differently. There's ways to leverage it with patient education and getting it out there, but there's also the monetization aspect of it. I mean, one of the reasons we do these business mastery format podcasts and YouTubes is because we're helping, just like our clinicians help our communities stay healthy, our clinics need to stay financially healthy as well. And this has turned into a monetization strategy, not only is it helping with the patient acquisition strategy, right? Your patients are finding you faster. You're building trust and credibility with them faster when you have your podcast out there. They are making decisions faster. They're booking those new client consults faster. And there's also 60% better retention when podcast ads are delivered. And so there's also this podcast advertising and marketing aspect to it, which have been helping Forum Health with, that ads during these podcasts are great for supplement partners, lab panels, lab partners,
Absolutely.
different memberships or events that you're hosting or other people are hosting. These are really great opportunities to partner with the people and the partners you have for health and
Monetization.
financial health of your clinics. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of ways to monetize podcasts, whether you're a guest or a host. Those two can be different, but they're also similar. Most people think monetizing podcasts, they just think of sponsors for your
Mhm.
podcast. Okay, I have to host a podcast and get sponsors. Funny enough, you could get sponsored as a guest quite a lot. So, like Dr. Talks, we have over 200 sponsors that spend $3 million a year sponsoring our doctors' podcasts. That's another big part of how we're democratizing the creator economy for doctors, helping doctors get paid with your information. So, even if you're not a host, you could be a guest and speak on behalf of a brand. We attend events. We attended the Forum Health conference where there was lots of sponsored booths there. We were going to a big conference called A4M in December that we go to every year. There's probably 500 sponsors there. And our goal is to get sponsors for our podcast hosts and guests at events like that. So, and some of the other ways, so certainly, new patient acquisition is like bread and butter. So, whether you're a guest or a host, you can make
Mhm.
money from podcasting through new patient acquisition, getting patients to go to your website, fill out a form, and I'll talk a little bit more about how to optimize that in a minute. But then there's sponsorship. So, again, guest and host can both get sponsors. There's also being on a podcast and hosting a podcast gives you a lot of opportunities that you may not have considered to find new endorsements. And there may be some products that you absolutely love already. So it's not like you're having to sell a product that you don't believe in or like. Find products that you already recommend to your patients, clients, customers, and you can approach those, and we have a whole system set up to help doctors get those endorsements. And then, of course, there's honorariums. As you're on guesting on lots of podcasts, you're going to become more of a key opinion leader than you already are. That opens the door to honorariums. And speaking on podcasts kind of really helps get people energized, I've found, to be better speakers and to give better talks, and of course get more honorariums as a result of that.
Absolutely.
We've had quite a few doctors that have been able to transition from a traditional brick and mortar to like an online business and create seven figures of revenue from their podcast. And
Mhm.
so go from patients to clients, going to online health coaching
Yeah.
as physicians. So we've seen a lot of that. A lot of
It really
doctors,
opens so many doors.
it opens so many doors, and we've seen a lot of doctors. If you may have online courses, you may sell supplements. All of those are ways to monetize.
I've been seeing this as well, that brands are shifting ad dollars from the Facebook, Google to podcasts as well because they're seeing the benefits of that. The
Hugely.
podcast ads have 3 times higher trust than other ads do. And that comes back to those
Yeah.
15, 30-second ads on Instagram and stuff like that. They are great, but 3 times higher trust in a podcast ad, which equates to a lower cost per acquisition. And the podcast ad market has gone from in 2024, $2.4 billion market. In 2025, it's about landing at 3.1 billion. And it's projected to be above 4 billion for just the ad market. So we see the demand, we see it growing here. So I wanted to throw that out there because it's a really big area of opportunity for people.
It's huge. And again, whether you're a guest or a host, you could still benefit from ads on podcasts because I would say 95% of the ads that we have on our doctor's podcasts are host read commercials.
Mm,
That's why they come so
yeah.
high in the trust factor. It's the host that's reading your commercial. So
Yeah.
I'd recommend if you're a doctor and you're going to be a guest on a podcast, ask if you can sponsor that
Yeah.
episode. You
That's a
can
great
it might be a
nugget.
lot less expensive than you might imagine. And,
Yeah.
of course, it depends on the size of the audience and it depends on a lot of different factors. But, you might be surprised that you could get maybe for as little as $1,000, you might be able to get a really effective ad that can, generate a lot of patients, clients, and customers for
Mhm.
you.
One
Yeah.
of the reasons that we partnered with you at Dr. Talks is because when we looked at the opportunity in the podcast industry, it it is great. But that being said, there are a lot of I wouldn't say roadblocks, but there are a lot of challenges in order to have the outcome of kind of what we're talking about, being that, honorarium and growing that trust and that brand and opening those doors. Consistency really becomes the number one predictor of success in the podcast, which is why we partnered with you. I'm a coach myself. I believe that if you're going to do something great, you need to be led by people who do it really, really well,
Hmm.
especially when you're in a learning phase of things. And we're so grateful to have you as our coach and our mentor for our podcast. But there are 4.1 million podcasts that exist today, and only 450,000 of those are actually active. And
Right.
when we talk about all these really great things that can come from a podcast, the one thing that I want to put out there to our audience is that you do need to understand what it takes to do this for a whole year. And I can't begin to thank Dr. Talks enough for how much they've guided us so that we can be consistent and we can grow to be that leader in the podcast industry because 88% of podcasts go inactive.
Right.
There's
Yeah.
90% of new shows that don't even make it past episode 3 and 99% never reach episode 21.
Yes. Yeah. No, and it's been such an honor and a pleasure to work with Forum Health and so many of your providers. And one of the things, I did a live talk radio show for 4 years, and I learned about how do you consistently book guests? How do you consistently create topics and content? And so what I figured out with Doctor Talks is we want to take away all of the hard stuff that's not fun and let the doctor
So
do.
much fun hosting.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah, it's fun,
I'm
right?
so glad that all I have to do is say, "Hey, this episode here, this could be a good sponsor for it," and your team takes it over. And,
Right.
"Hey, I don't know about this person, but I'd like to interview them. Can you reach out for me?" It's really like you guys have become such an extension of me where it's just like if I want something, I'm just like, "Hey, here, help me." And you
Oh,
guys are
well,
just you're great to work with.
we appreciate
I
you.
really have the funnest part of the job.
Yeah, well, that's the whole point. You just want to show up and share your information, be a guest, be a host. That's the fun part. What's not
Mhm.
fun is guest booking, recording, editing, creating social media clips, platform distribution, growth strategy, monetization strategy. How do you use AI? Like we take care of all that part. So
Mhm.
we could just amplify your voice. You can go out and do the fun stuff that actually is the true value add, not all the back office stuff that we can handle for you, but it's like, what's the true value add? Well, you bring it to the table, the doctors bring it to the table. That's where we want to amplify the voice.
Yeah, absolutely. And shows that last more than a year will dominate the search, the algorithms, and the
Yeah.
recommended feeds. It's committing and sticking with it for at least a year, because this trend isn't going away. And I think that there's a lot of other things that are happening in this industry too, where, video podcasts are now expected to account for 60 to 70% of new shows by 2026. So this industry is evolving too. We've already got an evolving functional and integrative medicine industry. Now we've got an
Hmm.
evolving podcast industry. I'm glad I have an expert to help me navigate at least one of those industries where I don't have to be the expert in it. Just gonna say that.
Yeah. No, well, I mean, you made it such a good point. So we have a lot of doctors that have, hundreds of thousands, if not now millions of followers and subscribers. And the thing that they all have in common is longevity and consistency. They all started with 0 subscribers. We all start in the same place with 0 subscribers, but they created a system that was sustainable. And with a podcast, you want to start and never stop. And the only way to do that is if it's going to be fun and you don't have to do the stuff that is not fun. And so that's
Yeah.
where we come in and support and make sure that it works. And every doctor is a little bit different. I have one doctor who he's so busy, he'll just record twice a year. He'll record 24, 25 episodes twice a year. Like in June and December, he'll go for 2 weeks and just record a ton of episodes. I have other doctors on the other end of the spectrum, just very, very religiously every week, once an episode. And some do, 1 week a month, they'll record 4 episodes. And there are some who can only get 2 a month, and there's nothing wrong with that. The consistency and longevity is what makes all the difference. I'd say 95% of our doctors that have done over 100 episodes, which is approximately 2 years, 1 episode a week for 2 years, are making a profit on their podcast. So whether that's through sponsorships, honorariums, patient conversion, they're making
Yeah.
a profit, and some are making a lot of money. But those are the ones that have had longevity and consistency.
Yeah. So would you say that longevity and consistency are probably what separates a podcast that grows from one that doesn't? Or is there any other magic sauce to
There
that?
there is. Yeah, there's a lot of other magic sauces. I would say that's a really big one because
Hmm.
it's very, very rare that your podcast blows up right out of the gates. That almost never happens, and you shouldn't expect that. But the fastest way to grow your podcast is to do interview swaps with other podcast hosts, other doctors that host
Hmm.
podcasts. Because every time you do an interview swap with another doctor that has their own audience, you're getting exposed to their audience. And so we have lots and lots of shows. In fact, there's 1,700 functional medicine doctors that have channels on Doctor Talks, and lots of them have podcasts. And so, what I always recommend is to do podcast swaps. So, if you're a host, you're trying to grow your podcast, do podcast swaps. And then, with the same list of doctors who host podcasts, even if you don't want to host your own, you should be a guest on those podcasts. And that's actually a little bit later I could share about Dr. Talks Connect. And so we've created an online system where it's free for any doctor who wants to have a channel and a profile on Dr. Talks, and they can connect with the other doctors. And I can show you later how we do that.
Yeah. Love that.
Yeah.
So I am really enjoying the podcast swaps too. I've been
Hmm.
interviewing a lot of practitioners within our own network, but it's been really also fun to get outside the network, start interviewing people and doing those swaps has been so much fun. And the other thing of the podcast swaps too, and just being consistent and whatnot is that functional medicine and our providers, the podcasts have been humanizing the providers and building
Yeah.
trust much
Big
more
time.
quickly, especially with those swaps too. There was this, I feel like there's this initial reaction where it's like, oh, you're going to expose my audience to somebody else. And there's that initial fear for some people of like, "Oh, but they're mine. Like, I don't want to be patient." And it's not, I want to address that because I do feel like it's something that I've heard from other, not experts, other people in the industry of like, oh, well, if they're exposed to my audience, why would I want to expose them to my audience? It's building credibility for you
Right.
also when you have them
Absolutely.
on your podcast and when you're interviewing them. There is more than enough people out there for us to interview and expose people to multiple clinics and experts. And I just wanted to touch on that because I've heard it.
Yeah, well, no, I think that's a great point. So, I mean, I think we could give an example where, like, for example, Dr. Peterson, who is in Forum Health and he treats Lyme disease, was on our Lyme disease virtual summit hosted by another doctor who's in a completely different state in another
Mhm.
location. And so she's trying to grow her audience. So why would she have Dr. Peterson, who has a completely, who could take some of the patients from those listeners? Well, the reason why is because you do build that credibility. the fact that they're also in different states makes a big that's a big difference. It's not likely that they have probably uh, they don't compete for patients, most
No.
likely not. And what we see is that when the doctors collaborate like that, everybody wins
Yeah.
because there's more than enough patients, across borders, across boundaries, and across your audiences. And wouldn't it be great if you can get exposed to another 20, 50,
Yeah. And
100,000
it's an
people who are
expert
interested in the
interviewing an
subject?
expert. Yeah, it's an expert interviewing an expert also. And with functional medicine topics, they require nuance. They require this long form type of discussion. And it's great to have that back and forth. It presents so much more authentic, so much more real. And again, you're just building that trust and rapport with your audience that way. We've been podcasting together for a few months. We've got a good amount of podcasts in the bank for us, and it's been really interesting doing a variety of lengths of
Hmm.
podcasts. We've got podcasts now that are 60 minutes. We've got some that are 15 and 20. What formats do you see perform the best right now?
Yeah, that's a great question. You know, it's really interesting. There are some doctors who their best performers are their solo episodes. We tend to
Mhm.
recommend if you're doing solo episodes, keep them to 15 minutes. That's kind of the sweet spot.
Mhm.
Interviews generally shoot for approximately 25 minutes, but it's okay if they go long. If you just have such great information, you need to keep going. That's fine because
Mhm.
the people that comes through, it comes across in the medium. And I always tell people solo episodes are much harder. They're much harder. They take a lot longer time to prepare, but there are some doctors that are really good. It tends to be if you're really chatty, if you're a talker, then you might be really good at solo episodes. I was
Yeah.
never good at solo episodes. I found them to be. I had to spend way too much time preparing, but
Yeah.
the conversations just came much easier for me. And so, it really just depends on the subject, the doctor, your personality. All of those things will determine what happens. But again, they're kind of rule of thumb: 25 minutes for the interview, 15 minutes for the solo episodes.
Got it. Perfect. So, what are some of the biggest trends you're seeing in the health podcast industry right now for 2025? What are people talking about or listening to?
I mean, gosh, I see a lot of longevity. I see a lot of gut health. I really love the new breakthroughs, new technology. I love when doctors talk about a new study that came out that
Mhm.
supports the functional medicine, supports their lifestyle.
Yeah.
So I see those tend to work really well. Lists, if you have top 10 lists, so like here are the top 10 supplements, top 10,
Yeah.
fill in the blank. Social media and the algorithms and the internet love lists. So like
They
those
love
can work
lists.
really well if you have, you just want to talk about the top trends in
Yeah.
your area of expertise. Those can work extremely well. So those are some of the trends that I see that get the most views, the most eyeballs.
Yeah. One of the interesting industry trends that I saw for 2026 right now is hyper niche podcasts like functional
Mm,
medicine grow
yeah,
3 times faster than general health shows. And
definitely.
right now we're looking at women 30 to 55 will become the largest health podcast audience by 2026. What we're starting to see is the demand for women's
Yeah,
hormones, weight loss, metabolism, and
absolutely.
interestingly enough too, we're starting to see, like, the chronic illness, mold,
Hmm.
Lyme, autoimmune.
Yeah,
I think that there's a lot of talk, around healthcare. Healthcare is changing right now, not to
big
get
time.
any political or anything, but it's just a hot topic of
Yeah,
conversation. So things
absolutely.
like mold and all of those things that we've been talking about in functional medicine for years and years and years, they're now getting high searches
Hmm.
from our consumers
Yeah.
because of how much the conversation is evolving and talking right now. I wanted to ask, so this is doable on its own. It's a lot of work to stay consistent and things like that, but how has AI supported production? Because I know that is a big deal in our industry right now too. How has AI kind of helped you with podcasts, or how do you leverage it when working with people?
Yeah, so I'll give a couple of suggestions. One of my favorite things for if you're going to be a guest on a podcast, or even if you're a host, you want to have a way to, first of all, get booked on podcasts. Even if you're a host, you want to do interview swaps, you want to get booked on other podcasts. So my, number one recommendation, if you're listening to this podcast, is create your signature talk. All right. So what I did here is I came up with podcast title ideas. So just go to ChatGPT and say, help me come up with 10 catchy podcast titles for doctors, and then fill in the blank of your area of expertise. In this case, I was just working with another doctor who came up with the folate fix. And so what we did was came up with these 10 catchy, memorable, professional yet intriguing podcast titles that in the same style as a folate fix. So you can see here, number one, the mitochondrial method, the hormone code, the inflammation equation, the detox blueprint. Those are all catchy titles that will
Mhm.
catch the eye of a podcast host. And so this is so easy to do. This used to take a long time
I know.
before ChatGPT. Now it's ridiculously
I
easy.
know.
Anybody can do it. And then so take the one that you like. So in this case, it took the folate fix and then ask ChatGPT, say, give me 10 interview questions on this particular topic. And it'll do so, of course, just as quickly. I mean, it takes seconds. And so once you have this, then you have your signature talk. And that by itself it may give you the confidence to go and reach out to many of the podcasts that you were considering. And
Mhm.
that's something that, I highly recommend to give it a try. So when you have your signature talk, it'll help you, it can even help you with honorariums. It can help you get booked on stages, but it's a great way to get started. And you don't have to create a PowerPoint. You don't have to create, what would classically be considered a signature talk, which might take a really long time to create, 45 minutes of slides presentations. Just take this and give it to the host and get booked on a podcast and have the host interview you. And now you have your signature talk. And there's so many ways you can repurpose that. I'm sure pretty much all of our doctors will give you a copy of the interview to put on your website. But once you have that, you can use that to create a newsletter. You can use it to create blog posts. You can certainly use it to create lots of social media clips. You can put a vlog on your website and drive further traffic to your website. There's so much you can do with one podcast episode. Easily
There
get,
is.
yeah.
After the interview is recorded, the content, so right now we're using a platform called Riverside,
Mhm.
as our recording platform, and I've really liked the intuitiveness of it. I know our marketing team has as well, where it takes out the ums and the little, like, pauses and stuff, and it creates magic clips for you. And 90% of shows in 2026 are going to use AI for editing, clipping, titles, SEO, repurposing. Find a tool that works for you, and you can have so much content. Like you said, blog posts, video forms, things for your website, stuff for your email content, email lists. You can even, some of our like 60-minute podcasts shorten into 5-minute clips that we throw on YouTube, and we're able to share with our patients, hey, listen to this. This is a question you asked me. Here's the answer in a 5-minute clip. So we're
Yeah.
able to repurpose this in patient education and handouts and, um, I mean, our marketing team and everything like that. It's been fantastic.
So now we're taking the AI to the next level. So what we did on Doctor Talks is we've taken all of the transcripts of all of our interviews and we've built a bot that actually integrates directly with ChatGPT. And so what that does is it allows the audience to ask plain English questions and get plain English answers from ChatGPT. So you can select a question, you could type in your own question or select a question. Can you explain how SOT therapy specifically targets microbes involved in Lyme disease? So what it's doing right now is it's reading all the transcripts. And I'll just go up to this last one that I had put in. And So, what is SOT therapy and how does it help treat Lyme disease? It gives a plain English answer that came directly from the content in ChatGPT, but then it has a video with the timestamp. So at 40 minutes and 42 seconds, that's exactly when that question gets answered. And so when you click on it, what pulls up is the video with the timestamp, and it starts right at, so the green line comes right to 40 minutes and 42 seconds. And when people push play, they get the exact answer to the question they want. Because one big problem that happens with a lot of podcast hosts is they see on their statistics, wow, people aren't watching all of our videos. They might click on it, but they don't watch the whole thing. And you might have a patient that says, oh boy, I really want to watch this, but I'll watch it later because it's, a 45-minute episode. And of course, later never comes. Well, that same
Hmm.
person with this AI chat tool will be able to get the exact answer to the specific question right at the exact point in the episode. So they push play, they watch that episode, they watch that part of the episode, and then what do? They watch more. They keep watching. We actually tested this with two cohorts of 150 patients each, and they watched 10 times more of the podcasts than without. And so that's what we've discovered. And so we're now really taking AI and podcasting to the next level. And what it really helps, it dramatically increases engagement, dramatically increases time on site, which of course gives the 10 times more opportunity for people to click on the link, go to your website, and schedule an appointment.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a very impressive tool.
Thank you. I've been working on it for 18 months. It's finally
I
launched.
love it. You had an opportunity to show me the last time we met, and I was blown away then, still am now. I think it's so fantastic that I can just ask a question on a podcast or a video, and then there's my answer. We live in a world where people demand, um, convenience at the
Right.
tips of our fingertips.
Sure. Instant
We went from
gratification.
waiting for mail for 7 to 14 days to being and now we're mad that it's a 2-day delivery, and
Right.
I mean, if I
Yeah.
can get an answer from a podcast in 30 seconds, I mean, that is you're speaking to the demand right now. Do you
Right.
think that AI is going to help or hurt clinicians in the content world in the future?
That's a great question.
This looks like
So
it helps us, right?
yeah, well that was my goal. So because there's
Thank you.
very large companies working on having an AI become a doctor, Dr. Google, but now Dr. GPT. And I believe that that takes away from the doctor. So what I'm trying to do is precisely the opposite. I want to amplify the doctor's voices. So by using this particular tool, our Dr. Talks AI chat in this particular way, it only grabs information from your content. It doesn't go out to WebMD or PubMed. So it doesn't replace you, it amplifies you. And so many doctors had asked us, they said, hey, that little demo that you showed is really cool, but I want it on my website. So we've actually now created that. So again, part of what I've been doing for the last 18 months.
Launching 2026, right?
Yes, it's launching. We're gonna soft launch in December and go full launch in January. And so I would love to help give anybody an early access pass who comes through Forum Health. We'll be glad to help them out with that. But what the bot will do is it'll read all the content on your website. So all of your blog posts. And then if you have any video content, you can upload the video content as well. It'll create the transcripts and it'll do what I just showed you, with the whole point of being to increase new patient acquisition, increase patient engagement, retention, increase other sales that you would offer on your website.
I agree. Yeah, that's great. And I back you said something interesting. There's all this AI out there that the chat GPTs and everything like that. And you've created a tool that keeps it in the ecosystem that these providers wanted to, which is so important too, because we know
Hmm.
that there's so much research out there. And when you go to chat GPT, it's collecting from everything, right? Or at least a
Right,
patient's experience. It might not be the
right,
same experience for a clinician who's using like a certain type of AI to do clinical or something like that. But your patient base has your generic chat GPT that's pulling from all over the place. That means it's pulling the fish oil study that looks naughty when it's
Right.
not really. We like fish oil. But the other, I think it also speaks volumes to how quickly this industry is growing because yes, AI is at the forefront. It's making a lot of our lives easier. It's making some of our lives more challenging. It's changing things at such a rapid pace. It's true.
Yeah.
It comes with its pros and its cons.
Sure.
But the fact that people are driven to podcasts right now that are this authentic format that humanizes people, people are going to be looking for the human experience. There's always going to be the convenience factor out there of what I can ask Dr. Google and how quickly I can get in to get whatever. But
Hmm.
I think that this podcast industry, and I think that the fact that the wellness industry is one of the fastest growing categories in it, that people are looking and they're researching. On average, a patient researches 4 to 7 hours before booking, and a
Wow.
podcast fills that gap. They're looking for a
Absolutely.
human. They're
Mm.
spending time researching that human because dollars and cents, we live in a very squeezed margin life right now for the
Mhm.
most part. Like costs are
Mhm.
going up and our salaries don't necessarily reflect that all the time. But people are spending their money in this area, but they're doing a lot more research on it now too. And they're looking for that
Mhm.
human experience.
Yeah.
And so I don't think that
Absolutely.
AI is going to be this huge hurt, but I feel like if you don't embrace it and if you don't learn how to leverage it, then you're going to be kind of left behind as well.
Yeah, that's precisely why we created this to help the doctors remain in the forefront of the conversation so people know that like, oh yeah, they've integrated AI to their website and we have a plug and play tool that does exactly that and for a like very very small amount of money.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
I know that we could be talking about
I'm
this
sure.
for forever. I mean, this could be its own
Yeah.
workshop series for people to get started in this industry. Hey, there's an idea, Brett. Let's go. But you've worked, I do have a question because you've
Mhm.
worked with some of the biggest names in health. Some of the biggest. If you haven't gone and looked at Dr. Talks, go and look who's on there. I'm just curious, what have you learned about leadership in this industry from all of the amazing people that you've been exposed to and worked with?
That's such a great question. Yeah, I've definitely noticed that the leaders really have, not you don't have to be the first one. You don't have to be the pioneer. You just have to be good at what you do and then not be afraid to get on
Confidence.
podcasts, to go out and speak and to go out and, really help other people through your voice. And that's what I've seen very consistently with the biggest influencer key opinion leaders out there is that they speak a lot. And what I found is the easiest way for them to speak is on podcasts.
Yeah.
And so don't be afraid to get on a podcast. I do remember the very first time I hosted my very first show, I was terrified. Now plus that was live radio, so that was a little bit slightly more daunting. But
Yeah.
once I had done a couple of episodes, I realized it's just a conversation
It's
and
just a
there's nothing to be afraid of.
conversation.
It's just a
I've been having so much
conversation.
fun talking
Yeah,
to our providers and stuff like that, and they were so and
sure.
it's so nice being the host, and it's also just
Yeah,
really validating that after a
yeah,
conversation with our providers, like, you made that so easy. It just as a
yeah,
host and as a person, I just love that keeping people at ease and having that fun conversation and knowing that the conversation is going to benefit so many people at the end of the
yeah.
day. It's a very empowering place to sit.
Well, it's an incredible shared experience that really builds a relationship and a connection way faster than almost any other way that I know how. And I like to call whether you're hosting or guesting a podcast super networking because you can build your own network of these key influencers and key opinion leaders and that can lead to so much more growth in your business and meaning and how much of a difference that you can make out in the world.
Thank you so much for joining us today. I know that there's a whole lot more that we could spend time talking about, but I think that this gives people a really great insight into what is growing right now, how you can get your name out there, how you can continue to build trust, and there's a lot of shifts in this industry. this is one of those areas that can really build momentum and drive a clinic to that next level.
Yes, and so we would love to invite any doctors who are listening to come and start connecting on Dr. Talks. You can go to drtalks.com. That's drtalks.com/connect, and you can create your free profile, and you can start connecting with some of the biggest names in doctor podcasting out there. And we'll be more than happy to help you if you are interested in having a conversation with us.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Brett. Until next time, we'll see you later.
Pleasure's all mine. See you later. Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Business Mastery in Functional Medicine, presented by Forum Health and Power to Practice. If you found this valuable, be sure to subscribe, share it with your team, and visit forumhealth.com or powertopractice.com to learn more about how we support functional medicine clinics across the nation. We'll see you next time.